Good morning. Today I'd like to talk about coloring options. Some choices may be kind of confusing. Stampin' Up! Offers 5 different types of coloring options. We have ink pads, we have Stampin' Write markers, we have Stampin' Blends, we have watercolor pencils, and currently we've been offering Brusho, but beginning in our 2019-2020 catalog, pigment sprinkles will be taking the place of the Brusho crystals. I am really excited about the pigment sprinkles coming in. They're going to match the Stampin' Up! Colors. It's a box of 6 for $23, and it comes with the Mango Melody, the Bermuda Bay, Daffodil Delight, Granny Apple Green, Gorgeous Grape, and Melon Mambo. Cannot wait for that to come available. Oh, look at this one. That was the wrong one. Okay. Brusho crystals, pigment sprinkles, they're both so easy to use. You just drop some on your paper, and then you can use a spritzer and just spritz it with water. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Or you can take your aqua painter and move the color around. Now, pigment sprinkles, Brusho, all these powdered pigments are really awesome because you can control the color saturation. So you can do it like that, let it dry before you stamp on it, okay? You can even just mix the color in a little pot and use it like that. Now, another option that really doesn't take too much explanation, we have watercolor pencils. Watercolor pencils are awesome. Who doesn't like coloring with pencils, right? They're so easy. But the thing about the watercolor pencils, you can highlight the areas you want and then use your aqua painter to spread the pigment around. Isn't that pretty? Don't get too much water on your card though. Both the pigment sprinkles and the watercolor pencils are best if you're going to be using watercolor paper if you have a large area that you want to color. Now say you don't want to color all that, you just want a little bright color right there. Just touch your aqua painter to the tip and there you have it. Awesome, easy to use. I love the coloring pencils. Fun, fun. Ink pads. Ink pads, of course, are your go-to for stamping. Now, a lot of times people end up getting what's called a halo. They press into the pad, wiggle the pad around, wiggle the stamp around, and then you end up getting ink outside of the image. All you have to do is just tap, tap, tap. Do it on your paper. Make sure there's no halo. It's perfect. It's completely inked up. You know you have it in the sweet spot. So just 3 little taps and then just press. Don't wiggle it around, just press. Beautiful image every time, every time. Now, what's really cool about ink pads, you don't have to just do this. There's a couple different things you can do with the ink pads. You can tap it on an acrylic block, like that, and now you have a paint palette. Ooh, I didn't get all my blue off. There we go. Now you have a paint palette, and you can use it to watercolor. You can control the amount of color you want. So it's pretty versatile. Or, what you can also do, let me wipe that clean. Go ahead and do your whole block on there. Get it nice and inked up. Then take your Stampin' Spritzer. What can I do this over? Let me get this to do it over. Here we go. Then you just take your Stampin' Spritzer, get it kind of wet, flowy. Yes, that's lovely. Then your ink becomes a nice watercolor background. And you do have to wait for that to dry before you stamp an image onto it. Okay, but still, it's two additional ways to use your ink pads. Ink pads are always a good option to go with. Okay, one thing about ink pads in my experience, unless you're using StazOn permanent black, I don't recommend regular ink pads for stamping on vellum. Just takes too long for it to dry. You hit it with the heat gun, you think it's dry, and you end up smearing it. Yeah, I found it's best to just emboss on the vellum. Now, for the big conundrums. Dun 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 dun. Stampin' Right markers versus your Stampin' Blends. Which should you add to your stamping supplies? Well, what do you want to do with them? They have different applications. Let's start with the Stampin' Right markers. Okay, Stampin' Right markers are beautiful just for coloring in. I really like this bird in yellow. So, oh, notice it's got a thin line and a thick line. Lets you know which end is a thin point and which is a thick point. That's a really good thing to know. But Stampin' Blend markers, easy to use. I'm going to use the thick end on this one. Look at that. The color flows beautifully, and it's going to be uniform. Now, you don't have to worry about using these markers anywhere because they do not bleed through. So you can use that for your simple stamping. One thing that I really like to do with the markers is I like to stamp straight to color straight on the stamp itself. See, like this has got your swirlies, your leaves, and your flowers. Okay? Well, if you want, you can go ahead and just color the stamp itself. I'm just going to do this real quick. Color in the stamp itself. And then if you want different pieces of it to be different colors, then you don't have a problem. You go back and you color it in. And yes, I did miss those leaves up there. I just don't want to take too much of your time. Give it a little huff. Make sure that it's not dried off. Remember, when you're stamping, you don't wiggle, you go straight down. Sometimes it's best just to leave it a minute, let the paper absorb that ink. And there you go, you've stamped in your different colors. Of course, you'll want to probably take a little more time than I just did to make sure you have your stamp colored in the way you want it to be, but that is an awesome use for your Stampin' Blend markers. Here is another fun use. This is a little for you. Well, I'm going to do the 4 in one color and the U in another. cute? I just love it. I just love it. Another use for your Stampin' Blend, your Stampin' Write markers and your Stampin' Blend markers. You have your little white pearls, but you want to put a colored pearl on here. Well, look, you just color, wrong end. Color your little white pearls, and they match. You just color them in to match, and then they're perfect to go on your project. There we go. Cute, cute, cute. Maybe you want to have the little purple things running along the... come back here, you. Okay. Yeah, once you put it down, you probably want to just leave it down. There we go. Anyway, so that's another option with your Stampin' Write markers. The final benefit of Stampin' Write markers, your Stampin' Write markers are refillable. Okay? Now, if you need to refill them, all you have to do is pull off the little nib. See? It comes right out. Easy peasy. Then take your refill and just drip it on down in there. Do be careful because this does have the possibility to really make a mess. I think I put a little too much in there. That's okay. That's okay. Let's just tap it there. Take the nib. Make sure we're putting the right end back in. There we are. There we go. Voila! That's all you have to do to refill your Stampin' Write markers. They are awesome. You can color directly on the stamp. You can stamp whatever, you can color whatever you want and it doesn't bleed through. You can color in your embellishments. Stampin' Write markers are really pretty good. They're pretty all-purpose. Now, our last choice, we have our Stampin' Blends. Stampin' Blends are not refillable, but they do have the thick line and the thin line, so you know which end you're on. Okay. They can also be used for coloring in your white embellishments. There, I'll make myself a little blue one. This is really light, so you may not be able to tell, but I can see it's blue. Now, blends are, as you can guess from the name, they're awesome for shading. Okay? I love how you can shade. Now, it does sometimes take a minute, a little bit of practice to get your colors to blend right. That's the dark. Some people say start with the light and then add the dark. Some people say start with the dark and add the light. I don't see much of a difference. I go back and forth. So there I had the dark, I added light. Now I'm going to go back and add some dark, some more dark in. Yep. Okay. Look at the pretty shading on that. Oh, little bluebird of happiness. Okay. So blends are also good because you can use these on vellum. This is the one option that you don't have to be afraid to color on vellum about. Here is the only drawback. They bleed through. So if you're going to use Stampin' Blends, then you're going to be using it on projects that have layers, because you don't want your family member, your friend, whoever you sent the card to open the card and see this kind of bleed on the inside of their card. So, well, that is the difference between all the options. Our stamp pads, not only can you make your images, you can also use it for watercoloring and for backgrounds. Watercolor pencils, super easy. You can, just use an aqua painter to blend everything in. Take a little more time than I did on that. We've got color sprinkles, which are very fun to use. They're lots of fun, and I'm really excited about the pigment sprinkles coming out in our new catalog available June 4th that will match our Stampin' Up! Colors. That's like the best thing in the world, is how Stampin' Up! Has everything to match. The ink, the markers, the paper. It's awesome stuff. Okay? And then I hope you understand the differences between your Stampin' Right markers and the blends. Refillable, do not bleed through, lots and lots of color choices, nice color flow, lots and lots of color choices with the Stampin' Blends, but they do bleed through. They're not refillable, but you can use them on vellum. They're awesome, and both of them can be used to color in your embellishments. So, which one would you get? I would say, if you're an avid stamper, you want all of the options. So, whichever you prefer, whatever you need your coloring uses for. I hope this was kind of helpful for you. Actually, I hope this was really helpful for you. I'm not used to making videos. Please excuse how hesitant I am at places and making mistakes in places. But, I really wanted to talk about primarily the differences between the Stampin' Blends and the Stampin' Right markers, because a lot of people just don't understand which is better for them. And it's not a matter of which is better for you, it's what is your primary kind of crafting or card making. That's how you determine it. Anyways, enjoy making your decisions, all the different choices. Can't wait for the new catalog, June 4th. That's what this little bird is from. It's from a set called Free as a Bird. And just absolutely beautiful. So, anyway, I'll show you a card made with it. Here we go. Isn't that just the most beautiful thing? Now this, of course, has the DSP paper, and I used the yellow Stampin' Blends there, and you notice it's layered. So it's okay that bled through because you don't see it on the inside. Okay. Well, have a wonderful week. Make the world a beautiful place. And if you need anything, hit me up on Facebook, Made with Love, or you can go to the Stampin' Up! Site at creatingwithcarol.stampinup.net. Thank you so much. Bye.